Facebook's independent oversight board has decided to uphold the suspension of former President Donald Trump's account on the world's largest social media platform. Bloomberg Facebook reporter Kurt Wagner has been reading the report that just came out minutes ago. He joins us now from San Francisco. Hey, Kurt, thanks so much for stepping away from it for just a second to be with us. There are some big caveats in here. It's not a blanket ban forever for President Trump necessarily. Give us the details. What are your big takeaways from the Independent Oversight Board's reasoning behind this morning's decision?
Yeah, it's not a blanket ban. Basically, the board came to this conclusion that Facebook enforced a penalty that's not actually allowed based on the rules that it has in place. There is nowhere in Facebook's policies where they can give someone an indefinite ban, which is what happened here. Usually if they suspend someone, there has to be kind of a set time limit on that suspension, or they have to, ban that person permanently. And they kind of did this hybrid in between that, doesn't reflect anything in their rules. So the board said, hey, listen, we agree with your suspension. You should have suspended him, but you shouldn't have done it indefinitely because that's not an option. You need to go back to Trump and basically say, here is a time limit for your suspension, which would be in line with your policies.
Hey, Kurt, we were just talking to Marty Schenker a little bit about this board. I wonder, based on you and sort of your coverage on this story, are you surprised that they came to this conclusion? Were you expecting a bit more of a definitive answer from them? And I asked too, because when you look at the makeup of the board, I'm just wondering whether you thought there would be something a little bit more definitive with this outcome.
I did think it would be more definitive. I'm pretty surprised. Not only, did I think it'd be a little more definitive, I thought it would actually be the opposite direction. I think most of the board's decisions thus far have been to overturn what Facebook has done. So the fact that they upheld it surprised me. And then, I'm still reading my way through this full decision, but there's a part here where it basically says the board is telling Facebook, we decline to make this decision because you're seeking to avoid your responsibility. Like, you need to make this call. And I thought that was a little hilarious, only because the whole point of the board was because Facebook didn't want to make these decisions. And now the board's saying, hey, don't give us your hard choice. Like, you have to do this. And I just thought that was an interesting twist there.
Well, it seems like neither Facebook nor the quote-unquote independent oversight board that was started by Facebook and is funded by Facebook, we should note, wants to make this decision, Kurt. They don't want to face the repercussions of it.
They don't. And, that was kind of the whole reason Facebook created the board, was for exactly this moment, right? I mean, certainly they didn't know it was going to be Trump, and they didn't know it was probably going to be this high profile, but these are the types of things that Facebook wants help with. And so the fact that the board isn't willing to make that decision is really interesting, and will kind of, put a little bit more pressure on Facebook moving forward, because now they can't just kind of assume that anything they send over to the board will be taken care of for them.
Absolutely. We'll probably at some point hear from Mark Zuckerberg. Kurt, what message does this send to other social platforms out there who were maybe watching this pretty closely and seeing how this played out?
Well, there was a lot of talk that, maybe if this board overturned Facebook's decision, suddenly the pressure would be on Twitter, right, who has banned Trump permanently. If this board said, no, this was the wrong call, would people suddenly say, Twitter, you need to change your mind as well? And I think, first of all, the company said it wasn't going to do that, but that doesn't mean there wouldn't have been outside pressure to do that. And I think, the fact that this suspension was upheld, even though, Facebook still needs to make a long-term decision here, at least the board said your decision in the moment was the right one. I think that actually gives Twitter a lot more cover here, and they probably have to feel good about this, because they can say, listen, we made the decision that did align with our rules, and we're kind of done with it, and we can move on, and they don't have to sit here and worry about people getting upset because the oversight board disagrees.
As we mentioned earlier, Nick Clegg at Facebook tweeted, quote, "We thank the oversight board for the care and attention they gave this case. We will now consider the board's guidance and develop a response that is clear and proportionate. In the meantime, Mr. Trump's accounts remain suspended." What does Facebook take into account, Kurt, over the next 6 months, or the oversight board for that matter, that could actually change this?
Well, I'm sure they'll be watching, what former President Trump does in terms of his own political ambitions, right? I mean, 6 months is a long time, and it's very possible that, there's been rumblings that he might run again for president.
So you think that if he potentially does run again, that could be one reason that they would be compelled to reinstate him?
I think if he makes a very serious, effort to run again, and he would be then a active candidate for president, I think that could have an impact on what Facebook ultimately does here. Whether or not that's just theater or trying to get attention or what, I can't say. But I do think it would be hard for them to keep an active political candidate off Facebook, even if that person has broken the rules before.
Wow. I mean, a lot here, Kurt. We really appreciate you being with us on this breaking news. We're going to have to follow this for the next 6 months, right? Because we didn't get a definitive answer today. But Bloomberg's Kurt Wagner, we really appreciate you waking up early and being with us this morning.
Thanks for watching Bloomberg Quicktake Now. Subscribe to our channel to see the biggest stories the moment they happen from around the world. And tune in to our 24/7 live stream for global news coverage, interviews, deep dive shows, and documentaries on the stories you care about most.